Learn the most empowering hiring techniques. Land the most desirable talent. Launch your company towards massive success. This is the Higher Power Radio Show with your host, Rick Gilad.
All right, you know that hire, the one that you're told you have to make if you want to break into a big market. Now, a founder gets some advice from people they trust. You need a gray hair, you need someone with a Rolodex, and you need somebody who can open doors. And when you're using investor capital and trying to scale fast, it sounds like a very logical and almost inevitable decision. So you find someone through an introduction. The person looked flawless on paper, talked like an insider, dropped the right names of the right people, and then passed a multi-stage interview process. Then 11 months later, the reality hits. 0 new clients and hundreds of thousands of dollars burned between salary and expenses. So that's what we're unpacking today. What happens when you trust recommendations without understanding a person's true positioning and performance? And we're going to talk about how to build a system where your business doesn't depend on one expensive personality. I'm Rick Gilad, and welcome to the Higher Power Radio Show. We help entrepreneurs and business leaders win the strongest people. We do so by sharing insights from top-performing rebel entrepreneurs, game changers, and industry leaders like our guest today, Mr. Gilad Bechar. He is the CEO and founder of Moburst. Now, Moburst is a world-renowned mobile-first digital agency that has become a trusted growth partner to some of the most recognizable tech brands on the planet. His value add is his ability to see around corners, and this is what sets Gilad apart. He identifies the trends, tools, and tactics that give brands a strategic edge in a saturated digital landscape, which is what makes Gilad the perfect expert for today's topic. Gilad, welcome to the Higher Power Radio Show.
Hello. Great to be here.
All right. It's a pleasure to have you. So I'm super excited because we get to talk about something that I love talking about. And I like to call these like either like optic hires or vanity hires or the old gray fox hire. Right? So let's talk about experience and Rolodex and, kind of this gray hire thing. I mean, this is in my mind, it's always been more of an optics play rather than a positioning play. And I've seen a very low success rate of this type of hire, right? It's an advice that's been given to people. It logically you think, hey, somebody with a lot of experience can come in and they can get the ball rolling very, very quickly. But it's funny because as a headhunter, about 70% of the searches I took over the past 12 years were this exact scenario. We hired somebody, we thought they were going to be great, expectations were set, we did everything right, but the wheels fell off the bus, pretty quickly into it. So let's talk a little bit about that. Tell me your story about your kind of your gray hair bit.
Yeah, that's a pretty wild story for me. So basically, we opened the company in 2013, and then in 2014 we raised some capital. And we didn't plan to raise capital, but we had a great opportunity ahead of us. And in 2015, basically, I relocated from the Tel Aviv office to the New York office. And we said that we're trying to grow as fast as humanly can and being able to bring more big clients into the door. And the investor back in the day said, well, Gilad, as much as I love you and I think that you're a great salesperson, and once you are talking to a client, you manage to close them, but you need the connections, you need the relationships, you need to bridge that gap of no one knows who you are. In Tel Aviv, you built a great narrative about what you guys are doing, and you helped fantastic clients. You have great clientele there. In New York and in the US, you don't have that just yet. Let's try to buy that type of a bridge and getting you there faster. Let's get you a gray hair, someone that will be able to provide you all of the Rolodex, all of the connections, having the access to the market. We need to find someone with 15 to 20 years of experience that managed to show you that he sold massive deals for other agencies, other solution providers, and things of that nature in your niche. buy that type of a shortcut. And we tried on doing it. We were doing a very deep process of finding, trying to see how we can find the right type of fit, and we had a lot of support on finding, nitpicking on every single CV, and then starting to do interview process and doing 6 stages of process to have interviews and checkups and questionnaires and lots of different things to make sure that we are going in the right direction. Basically, when we hired that person, it was very, very painful.
So I'm curious, all that process that you put in place was essentially, I mean, it didn't get you to a place where you really got true signal on who that human was.
So I think that, when we looked on his CV, the first line that was there, that I closed $2 billion of sales for other agencies, and some of them publicists like WPP, like the biggest agencies on earth. You're saying, hey, he is legit. He brought T-Mobile in here, from here to there. And okay, he brought deals worth of hundreds of millions of dollars. We don't need those hundreds of millions. We need millions. We will be very happy with to start with. Like, we were just starting in the US. And he checked out all of those right spots. He showed me, on my phone, I have lunch tomorrow with the VP of TD Bank here in the street in here, and I was working with the SVP of MasterCard. He was with a colleague of mine 16 years ago when we worked together in the same office. I know everyone. I'm in that loop. I'm in this type of a mud on the agency side for so long. I know everyone. I have a direct connection with them. When they get an email from me, they never ignore. I can open you those doors. And that was just not really the reality that we felt over the course of the 11 months.
You learned a really valuable lesson that my old mentor taught me, which is everybody lies. I mean, especially during the interview process. I've never met a salesperson who wasn't the greatest salesperson in the world. But it's statistically impossible because most salespeople are terrible, but they all claim to be really, really good, right?
It takes time. It takes time to understand it, because I feel like I'm not sure if the gap was his relationships or connections. I feel like unless he lied for us for a very long time, I just don't think that he knew how to actually bring our solution to the mind of those connections and those relationships. I'm not sure that he, even after 11 months in the company, actually knew how to pitch what we do, which was very different than what others have done. It was a much more technology type of a play around mobile marketing, iOS, Android apps, algorithm of the App Store, Google Play Store. It was very robust type of a solution compared to he sold digital agency, digital work, creative, media buying, very basic digital stuff. When you're comparing it to the heavy tracking and all of the solutions of how we are doing the analysis and cookies, there were lots of technical parts there that he didn't know how to convey as well. And he used the wrong terminology a lot of times when I did hear him on calls. So it was very, I don't know. The fit obviously wasn't a good fit. I don't know to pinpoint exactly where it fall through the cracks, but I do know that it was a very expensive hire that cost us basically 11 months, and the opportunity cost of having someone else and what other sales folks actually managed to close while he was supposed to establish us kind of the North Star, and it just wasn't there.
Yeah, you know what, I found that. Especially with a lot of really seasoned people, they tend to take credit for work that their team did, right? As opposed to what they specifically did. So did he really close those deals? I don't know.
Yeah.
I found a lot of salespeople actually take credit for what their team did. And then when you drill down into the details of how did you specifically close that deal? Walk me through that. That's usually when the wheels come off the bus. That's how I tend to test salespeople, because quite frankly, again, they're all awesome. Are you listening to the Higher Power Radio Show? I'm your host, Rick Girard, and for our podcast listeners, we're going to take a quick educational moment from our sponsors. All right, I'm digging in deeper with our guest, Gilad Bechar. Hopefully, I pronounced your last name right, right?
Yeah, you can butcher it all the way. No harm done there.
All right, so we're talking about the gray hair hire, and I think what's really cool about this is how you kind of figure out how to pivot from this, right? So let's talk about you didn't actually pivot to hire another person. You pivoted and doubled down on another person in your organization, and then you also doubled down on marketing, right? So walk me through, like, step this out for me. Like, what did you do to pivot from this to where, because for some companies, this could be, a business killer, right? So thank God you're smart enough to look around the corner and get this back on track.
Yeah, I think that like where we kind of found ourselves, like the reason that we hired that kind of a gray hair is to try to find us the shortcut to the market. And we said, like, what is our dream coming true is if a CMO or a VP marketing or director of marketing of very large companies, basically when they are searching for an agency, a mobile marketing agency, they will find us as kind of the top choice. And the problem was that we weren't invited into those requests for proposals or things of that nature because no one knew who we are. We were just starting in New York. And then we opened San Francisco office. And again, we started to try to brand ourselves and position ourselves in the market. And what we basically, where we're looking for that senior hire is to open us the door. Like once we got into the door, the close rate was phenomenal. Our solution was state of the art. That was getting us, to win Google as an account and Microsoft as an account and Uber as an account. We managed to get to those in different stages of the company. The problem was to open the door to actually get someone to listen to your solution. And when they have that need, to make sure that they will reach out to you as well. So once they're considering 8 solutions, you will be one of those 8 to be able to be on that list. So we said, okay, if the sales kind of senior role is not the one that managed to get us into those rooms, let's try to reverse engineer how those brands basically searching for. Now, if someone knows specifically about a company, let's say they're now looking to work with Publicis or with WPP or with any one of those giants, they will go to them. That's I can't compete with that. But if someone is looking for the best mobile marketing agency, that's something that I might be able to get ranked for. That's something that I might be able to impact Google to understand that I'm the best at. So we were doing a lot of marketing, a lot of SEO, a lot of content marketing, a lot of different things to position ourselves as the number one mobile marketing and app marketing agency out there. That's where we started. That was where we started in 2013. And even today, if you're asking Gemini or ChatGPT or Perplexity, for example, who is the best mobile marketing agency worldwide, you see that Mobus is still coming up in the top 2 results. Most of the times it's number 1. And it's based on a massive amount of investment into SEO. Now it's AEO, getting you ranked on those new LLMs, on all of those new ChatGPT alike. And the idea behind it was that if someone has a need, we want to be there. If someone is looking for our type of solution, we want to be there. So instead of us knocking on lots of doors of people based on relationships, based on what we find and brands that we feel like we can help with, when they are looking to change their agency, now let's get them basically to find us as number 1 result.
All right. So you invested into being discoverable.
Yeah.
Essentially, right? Through SEO. Besides SEO, was there any other way that you were able to build your brand authority to where people would find you?
Absolutely. So we were doing a lot of content plays. We were obviously
like podcasts.
So we didn't build our own podcast, but I was I was writing articles on TechCrunch and VentureBeat and Entrepreneur.com and lots of those big platforms of tech or marketing outlets, Adweek and things like that nature. We just basically built really good content pieces, created researches, and then show different trends on the industry and things of that nature, and pitch that to those editorial teams, and basically gave them the ability to post it for free, like it was our content, kind of guest posts, and basically getting our name as contributors to Forbes and to Entrepreneur.com and TechCrunch and all of those big publications, and basically being positioned as the thought leader that actually knows what works for Google, what works for Uber, what works for all of those companies that we managed to have the luxury of working with, and because of that, showing trends that are very different in the industry.
Now, are those pay to play models? Like if you wanted to publish on Forbes, are you writing the content, getting it out to them? Or is it a kind of like a, hey, we'll publish it if you pay X amount of dollars, or is it kind of an exchange scenario?
So, I think it's a great question. When we started that, it was basically we offer them a guest post, and again, no money, no money change hands or anything like that. We just created really good content. We got a lot of feedback from their editorial team, like just like a reporter gets, but we're not getting paid for that. So another revision and another revision till it actually passes through their level of stamp and saying, okay, great, we will post it on Thursday. And then when it is posted, obviously us all celebrating it on Facebook and LinkedIn and like all of the different platforms. Another article by our founder on this and this and that, and things of that nature. Today, you can go to Forbes, for example. They have Forbes consoles, and then you can actually buy this type of subscription that allows you to post every 6 weeks or so. And the same thing goes for entrepreneur.com. Like they have different programs that could be also half of it pay to play, half of it like you actually need to pass through the editorial team. You actually need to provide a lot of value. There are lots of restrictions about what you can or cannot do, but it is something that it's like it costs you money in order to be part of that program within those publications. So they also changed the model a lot. When I started to post that, it was purely like, I'm giving you great value, and for that value, I just want to have that it's Gilad Bechar by Mobius. Like that's what I needed, like the link back to the site. That's it.
Yeah, I'm asking because I've gotten a lot of emails from them, like, oh, hey, we can publish your article, and it's kind of funny. It's like for $3,500, we'll do. I'm like, really? Is this what it's kind of come into? So
no,
all right.
they have different teams. They have the editorial team and they have the commercial. The commercial, they're trying to, getting as much monetize their site as much as they can. But it's different when it's posted from the editorial team or from the commercial team. It looks different. The article doesn't look the same. It's like a different structure. And it's also have like when it's paid, you see that it was paid by who it was paid from. So they have a lot of things to show that they're legit on that side of the equation. But when we started that, it was a great way for us to just share the knowledge, show a lot of things that are working very ugly in the industry, of mistakes that cost millions of dollars and people just ignore, things that are against any best practice, and so many brands are just going in the wrong direction. So it was much more about educational content of how to get to a better return on investment on mobile.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so invested heavily there. What's the second thing that you did?
So that was the SEO part and the content part that we kind of built into the mix. We tried to think about how, if we reverse engineer how the users are searching for us, how the brands are actually searching for us. We found a lot of listing sites, a lot of those recommendation sites that are comparing lots of service provider one against the other. So we said, okay, we can fight against them. We see that they're coming up number 1 or number 2 on Google, but let's make sure that we are there within their site, number 1 or number 2 in that list. So we kind of try to reverse engineer how, when someone is searching for our solution, no matter where they go, on the top 5 results, they will find us in any one of those results.
Perfect. Okay, so you got found, but then so then we exited the the bad hire, right? What did you do from a people perspective at this point?
So from the people perspective, basically, we kind of reshuffled things from different branches. Like I had the Tel Aviv branch, I had the New York branch, I have the San Francisco branch. And basically, one of the guys on the sales side that was moving from Tel Aviv to San Francisco, we kind of let him lead all of his pipeline in the US. And in New York, I was in New York. So if there is a big opportunity, obviously, I will hop on it as well. But we didn't replace that SVP that we hired back in the day. He also had SDRs that didn't really make it. They didn't manage to, again, do their role. So once he left, he didn't leave. We showed him the door, and it was very painful because like he had 2 other hires that he hired, and basically they didn't manage to do their job very well as well. Like they couldn't really give us. I just needed the companies to open the door to have us come and show them what they're missing out, and that was not happening. Basically, we the entire team there kind of changed over the course of the year. And the sales initiatives were led by the San Francisco office. When we had big opportunities in New York in the area, obviously speaking opportunities, things on that nature, I took it instead of having like an SVP to lead that. And we kind of distributed the sales role into, different, like what's in Tel Aviv, what's in San Francisco, and then in New York, kind of bridging the time zone gap, because it was 10 hours between San Francisco and Tel Aviv, which is a hard time zone to maneuver when you need to collaborate with the team and asking someone to create you this type of an audit of a thing, of account or something like that. So I was kind of serving as the bridge there instead of actually replacing that person. And I have to say that when I'm looking at the hindsight today, we still didn't hire that senior VP of sale type of a thing. I feel like I kind of lost the trust of having that fully baked into our process, and we can kind of now we are 120 employees. Back then, we probably were around 15 to 20 people. And we scaled it, but in a very different methodology.
Yeah, I mean, you could invest that money into salespeople who would actually be able to kind of open those doors, right? So you really doubled down on that San Francisco operator too, right? I think if offline you and I were talking about it prior to the show, and you said that person during that time frame brought in a lot of business from San Francisco.
Yeah, he managed to bring us Samsung and like lots of those big entities that were working with us for many, many years. And we managed to scale with them. So growing with them, we started small and then growing. And so it helped us to grow. So I think that we got a lot of really mature business that came from other of those branches. We had their great networkers. And the funny thing is that the person that led the San Francisco office was a relocation from Tel Aviv to San Francisco. He didn't have any network. He basically relocated to San Francisco, hoped for the best, and basically had no network whatsoever. But he would network with any Uber driver that he would drive to. Like he would talk to the gatekeepers. He will communicate with every single person out there to try to build him the network. And even with zero network compared to 19 years of relationships and networks, so to speak, he managed to bring us, again, 7 massive deals and another probably 15 closes of smaller deals, while the very expensive hire basically brought with them 0 after 11 months, which is why we kind of show him the door.
Yeah. And by the way, I've heard this story before. Like you're not alone. Like so many companies have made this mistake. You've got a hungry operator who who you bring out, who knows nobody, but he's motivated, he's positioned right for the business because he's hungry to make deals and help grow the business. What I've seen quite a few times, and look at there's hungry people who are quote unquote gray hairs too, right? But I have seen too many of them play off their laurels of what they accomplished in the past, and they're really not hungry. They're in a good position. They're just writing it out for an additional paycheck until they retire. And that's a positioning that's a positioning issue that I've seen, is that person's really not truly desiring what your business is. And they haven't really conveyed to you where they see growth, and even more, to get a step further. And God, I'm going to pose this question to you: Did that person want you more than you wanted them?
That's a very good question. I feel like we were fighting over him. I feel like we kind of stretched ourselves way over what we wanted to pay for this type of a position. Back then, he made a significant more money than what I made in that year. And I was also doing a relocation from Tel Aviv to New York with a wife and a kid. But the business wasn't in a place where we can actually spend $500,000 for salaries or things of that nature. But we said, like, this is our big bet. This is what we need to do. This is kind of what will open us the door to bring millions of dollars. It's a small bet if it succeeds. If it's not succeeding, it's very painful. And I feel like when someone is asking for a base that is very, very high, and then on top of that, very high, like doubling that base when they are successful at what they do, the question is, what happens if they don't give you anything? As long as they are not giving you anything, then you still need to pay that base. Now, if that base is $40,000, $80,000, or $250,000, it's a very different type of a base, especially before they started to make the additional money from commissions. Now, they're positioning themselves into saying, like, if I'm not making $500,000, I don't want to stay here anyway. Like, it's like what I'm deserve, what I always made in my career. So of course, like 250, like that's the base, like very, very kind of the baseline of where I want to start. But if I will stay there, I'm going to be very disappointed. And when someone is positioning themselves this way, saying, wow, I didn't expect to pay $500,000 for that type of a position, but I understand that that's what probably required in this specific instance, with 19 years of experience. And if he actually closed $2 billion worth of business, God, I need 10% of it. That's it. I'm going to be so happy with 5% of it. So if he knows the right people, and we have a phenomenal pitch, and we have incredible case studies, and the results speaking for themselves, just get me into those rooms. And he didn't manage to do that. So it was very frustrating and a very painful growth mistake that we've done when we kind of started our road in the US, basically.
I have found a common denominator for great salespeople is they don't focus in on base salary. And I've found that almost everybody is on the sales side. If they focus entirely on base salary, they're looking to get themselves out of something, right? Like, maybe some debt, or like, they know that they're not that great of a salesperson, that they can't put it on the line to say, hey, don't pay me that much. Give me this instead, right? So, and oftentimes they're just transactional, right? Like, so those, I had a guy that I talked to a few months ago who was super polished. And when I got into a conversation about how he closed a sale, like he claimed to have made the biggest sale in the company history. I'm like, wow, that's fantastic. Congratulations. So walk me through the steps you took to close the sale. And he gave me like a little kind of a fluffy high level thing. I go, no, break down the steps. Like, how did you find them? Like, walk me through this whole thing. And it was really interesting. He started, and then he paused for a minute, and he said to me, well, Rick, you know what? I'm not going to tell you how I did it, because then you'll just go do it yourself.
That's interesting.
I had to hold back the laugh, because like, I just caught you.
Yeah.
I said, well, you know what? It doesn't seem like we're a fit. And that was one of the first questions that he had in the very beginning, was base salary. So like, when the focal point is base salary, man, that's a warning sign that you should probably move on, unless you're a large corporation and you can eat a lot of a base salary and have a long ramp up time. But as small businesses, we can't afford that.
But that's the challenge, because when you're a small business, back then, a lot of companies kind of stole our talent. Like, I had a lot of our team was actually hired by Google, by Facebook, by lots of those entities. Kind of were looking for the mobile expertise and the analytics and the data and all of those traits. And basically, we kept on fighting over talent with some of the largest companies on earth. And then when we said, hey, you know what? When we are fighting over those beasts, we have to be more competitive on, especially if you want to bring someone in that level of caliber that can actually bring you deals worth of millions of dollars. That's the cost. And when you're looking on Glassdoor and things of that nature in New York City, it's very expensive. Like, to bring someone with 19 years of experience in that niche that actually had been VP, SVP, EVP on all of those organizations, it's not an outrageous salary. It's outrageous for a company that has 10 employees. And then, we're just starting the New York branch. That's very, very heavy. But it's not like an out of the world type of a salary. I feel like when you're fighting over talent, it's very hard to, especially when you see, hey, 2 more folks were just hired by Google, and one of them will now move to Ireland, and the another one to move to the Tel Aviv office. I'm saying, okay, we're taking them, we're training them, we're teaching them, we're giving them all of the tools, and then they're flying over to some of the largest payers out there, and it's part of the reality. Like, what can you do? So we needed to be competitive, especially where it was like, this is our make or break in New York, so to speak. And again, it wasn't the make of New York for sure.
Gilad, thanks for sharing this story with us. Great bit of content for sure. So what would be 2 or 3 key takeaways you can give the audience that they can plug into their business today?
Great question. So I think that number one, reverse engineer your customers and trying to think, how do they search? What do they search in order to find you? And if you'll be able to be kind of positioned well on those areas, you won't gonna have a sales problem. You'll like the marketing side can fix the sales side, if you will, if you just want to open the door. The second part is like never pay above your waistline, like above what you can actually pay. I feel like there we stretch ourselves very, very to a place where it didn't feel right, but still we said this is a big leap of faith that we need to make. So every single month that it didn't sell, okay, it's a ramp-up time, which we try to bring us excuses of why it's okay. Okay, it takes time. We know that in the US, those processes are longer and what have you. But this is something that if you can't afford to pay for that position for at least, again, a good enough amount of time to give them the chance, sometimes some approach works and others do not, and you want to make sure that they're getting like the second chance and third chance before you actually terminating or something like that. So I feel like every single one of those months were very painful for us because we are in the red because of that position, and hopeful that it will change. And I think that's the second takeaway that is very, very meaningful for us. And the third thing is I feel like trust your judgment on previous hires. Like the guy that we hired in Tel Aviv that started very early stage without any experience, we kind of trained him everything. After 2 years, he managed to bring us a massive amount of business in Tel Aviv, and then we moved him to San Francisco. Again, no network effect, no connections basically, and he managed to build us the biggest pipeline just because he was hungry, he was motivated. He knew what the company does. He loved what the company does. He believed in that. He saw it in his own eyes. He brought a client that started with $10,000 a month and scaled to $150,000 a month and was printing money. That's not, they didn't spend it because they loved us. They printed it because they printed for themselves cash. He saw and he believed in the product. And that was something that once you're promoting someone like that, there is so much light around it. There is so many things that are magical that are happening, and believe in people that are great operators and kind of give them bigger opportunities and bigger career chances is another thing that I feel like is very, very was working very well for us.
That's awesome. Gilad, thanks for your time investment today, and I want to welcome you to the Higher Power Radio community. Now, what would be the best way in which members of the audience can find you and find your company?
Fantastic. So the easiest way is finding Moburst on LinkedIn or just moburst.com. So moburst.com, a growth agency basically that help companies to overachieve their growth goals. And me personally is Gilad at moburst.com, Gilad at moburst.com.
All right, I love it. So thank you for tuning in this week's episode of Higher Power Radio. Quick thanks to our team, Brian Colburn, Andrea Ballin, Krish Marwa, and Ayla Gerard. If you're listening to the podcast, please subscribe, review, and share. After all, this show's for you, and we want to continue to bring you valuable founder-led content week after week. You can check us out further at Hire, H-I-R-E, Power, P-O-W-E-R, Radio, R-A-D-I-O.com, or on the Work Defined Network. You can also drop me an email at rick, R-I-C-K, at intertrue, intertru.ai. I'm your host, Rick Gerard, and you have been listening to the Higher Power Radio Show. Aloha.
Thank you for listening to Higher Power Radio. Catch our LinkedIn Live show every Tuesday at noon, or download the podcast on iHeartRadio, iTunes, YouTube, or your favorite podcast platform. We appreciate you joining us on Higher Power Radio with your guide to hiring success, Rick Gerard.